show that more than 8,000 people have died, out of which half of them, if not more, are children. It's children who are being targeted and killed, and there's no rescue operations that can be done because all communications are cut. And the places that have been bombed under the rubble, how many bodies are there, that is only a guess. I mean, this is inhuman barbarism, that what we are seeing now, and this must stop and must end immediately. The United Nations General Assembly resolution calling for a humanitarian pause must be implemented by Israel, by the world, and all the allies of Israel. The entire imperialist world is standing behind Israel in this barbarity. And this barbarity is such that it only, one can only recall or recollect what Rabindranath Tagore once said: give me a voice of thunder. Give me a voice of thunder that I can hurl imprecations upon this cannibal who spares neither woman nor child. This was Tagore's powerful, stirring call against these sort of atrocities, and that is all we can recollect now. And this whole justification being given in the world that this is not against Palestinians, this is against Hamas. It is exactly similar to some sort of situations that we have faced in our country. जब इंदिरा गांधी की हत्या हुई 2 सरदार सिक्योरिटी गार्डों से, पूरे दिल्ली में नहीं पूरे देश भर में जिस तरीके से हमारे सरदार परिवारों के ऊपर जो हमला हुआ, जो आतंक हुआ, उसका विरोध तो सब कर रहे थे। कोई गुनहगार कोई और है और पूरे कौम को आप जो है अटैक कर रहे हो। और यही बीजेपी आज जो कह रही है कि जो भी हो रहा है वो सही हो रहा है, क्योंकि हमस आतंकवादी है, उसके खिलाफ लड़ाई है। हमस के खिलाफ लड़ाई नहीं, ये तो पैलेस्टीनियों को बर्बाद कर रहे हो आप। This is a war against the people of Palestine. And that is why we are today saying that this is something that has continued for more than a century. By a gigantic imperialist conspiracy and fraud, Palestinians have been denied their homeland. It was the end of the First World War. After 1915, when the war ended, in 1916, this entire territory of the Middle East was partitioned between Britain and France. And in 1916, there was a treaty called the Sykes-Picot Treaty. And in this treaty, they divided up these lands between France and England. And Palestine came as an English protectorate. And in 1970, one Lord Balfour sends a letter to Zionist leadership saying that British promises assures you that a separate state for the Jews called Israel will be carved out of Palestine. That is one country telling another country that part of your land will be taken away and creating a third country. I mean, this sort of an imperialist fraud has never been seen, and since then they have been homeless and without a homeland. Then this treaty of creating the Zionist land, country created for the Jews, that could finally materialize only in 1948. And immediately after that portion for Israel was carved out of Palestine, Israelis then mounted a terrible offensive against the Palestinians, driving them out of their land. It's estimated between 6.5 to 7.5 lakhs of Palestinians were driven out of their homes, their lands. And finally, there was given as a mercy by the Jewish Israel and by world imperialism, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip for them to settle down. Even this was arrived at after the 1967 war, and the Palestinians were confined there. They were just not confined. They were not allowed to live peacefully. They were not allowed to live peacefully. Constant incursions into the West Banks and settlement of Jewish settlements there. Today, with the whole attention being on Gaza Strip, what is being, not there in actual our memory now, is that every day now, yesterday more than 1,000 people were killed, Palestinians were killed in the West Bank. So these attacks are continuing all over against the Palestinians. And the settlements, illegal Jewish settlements on Palestinian land, they have been now armed with private armies. And the private armies are armed by the Israeli forces. So it is the private armies that are today being used to conduct these sort of assaults against the Palestinians. So therefore we are now saying that this inhumanity must end. If this has to end, this barbarity must stop. And killing more than 4,000 children, it is something unheard of, even in the worst of the wars. That this sort of a situation doesn't come where actually families and children are targeted. Hospitals are targeted. And yesterday there was a very moving interview with one young boy. He said, I was very proud of my father. He used to save lives. What was his father doing? He's an ambulance driver. And he says there's no communication. My father hears the bomb blast and goes there to see if anybody has to be saved. He said, I'm very proud of him. Then what happened? He says another bomb blast came, he went there and he's never returned. So that is the life of these people. That is the common thing of what is happening there in Palestine today. Therefore, we demand now, immediately, that the government of India, though it is officially stated that the government of India stands by the assurance of the Palestinians of a two-state solution, with the state of Palestine created back to the pre-1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. This is the UN Security Council's mandate. And this is what India has supported all along. Forced by the situation, the government of India has redeclared this. They have redeclared this. But the point is actually to implement it. Instead, what we find today is complete unabashed support to imperialism, US imperialism, and all these countries are backing and arming Israel. For every year, more than $4 billion